Good morning, everybody, dear friends, dear AKIS friends. I'm happy to be here with you at the start of a new period, third period for me. I started in 2011 with building EIP and talking with a lot of countries all across Europe, trying to understand their situation and how these actors could join into EIP innovation projects. Next period, we've started, in fact, as from 2019, to build the AKIS, first in the small group of the AKIS strategic working group and preparing for the next policies. Then we had our proposal in 2019, meaning that today in 2025, when the new proposal for the third period, for us, third cap period, is on the table, we've been working, in fact, already for 6 years on AKIS and in particular on the understanding of AKIS. So if you ask me, what is the impact to be expected in the next period? I think the first thing that is important is to say that we are already 6 years ahead with the countries to understand it, and that's very important. And I think that will, besides all the legal provisions, be very important to build further on this implementation of AKIS. So this improved understanding will be certainly an impact that is there, and it's first of all building on the experience from the period that we have now and AKIS plans and strategies that you've all made. And this is clearly a result of the many seminars and activities in member states and at EU level that have been done. And for those who are not sufficiently acquainted, they can still look back and see some presentations. And I think what I should not forget is that also we have already more than 4,700 operational groups, which is huge. In this period, in the CAP plans, we have 3 times as much operational groups planned than the period before, meaning that member states have really welcomed it, and EIP is still a pillar, an important pillar, because there the actors meet, and the whole AKIS should also prepare to have good operational groups. So they are very interlinked, and this EIP has connected people already from the very start and is in that sense really important, and there's a lot of exchange of best practices on that, which also improves the understanding of AKIS. And what we see, for instance, as typical, something which we have long time talked about, is the fact that now across the different member states we will have operational groups. So the Baltic countries will, well, the call is open from 15 October. So it's open now for the 3 countries that have joined, and in fact also Sweden is open for external partners. So we're going already across the borders with operational groups, and that's very nice because it was a bit a dream of many, and now that's realized. So for sure the understanding has improved, and for those who are not there yet, I think the people who know about it can share, and you can always look back to the materials. I think our AKIS projects, and it's nice to have a session around that in the afternoon, our AKIS multi-actor projects, starting with the thematic networks, the advisory networks, our I2Connect project some years ago already have built a lot. And then currently from the call 2021, we have Modern AKIS, key project, as well as Attractis on innovation support services, and the EU Farm Book Knowledge Reservoir project. So there are really 3 key projects, also running quite long for a project. 7 years is quite long, which means you can really build communities and interconnect people on a longer term. They're all running really well. We just had the Farm Book review with very positive outcomes. They have worked now in their knowledge reservoir up to 7,000 knowledge objects. They offer free websites, so an operational group can just start their website there, or a multi-actor project, and immediately they are in, and all the materials can be uploaded all along the project, which is fantastic cost reduction for all those projects. There's what was always asked from the beginning also for operational groups, well, our farmers need it in the language that they can understand, the local language. So translation and the quality of translation is now so good. So they work with DeepL, and it's fantastic how they can translate it, that a farmer can understand something from let's say Spain in Greek or whatever. So I mean, these things are fantastic to see growing, and they really build also the AKIS at EU level. Because in principle, the term AKIS was meant to look within the country, to improve the interactions and the interconnections within the country. But at the same time, with all these projects and learning from each other, we're also building an EU AKIS, because you start to get to know each other better and to learn from each other. Another support for improved understanding is the non-paper, because in principle in the former period there was no guidance allowed. Before there were guidance documents. There was some discussion about it because it's legislation, but it's not legislation. So the big line was, in this period, no guidance documents. And we did manage anyway for the advisory services to have a guidance document, because within the framework of AKIS, we appreciate the advisory work very much. They are an interface between practice, between farming, forestry, rural actors, and the rest of the AKIS, research, the public authorities, etc. So it's really important, and a number of new tools, not the classical advice. I mean, the one-line advice, I'm the advisor and I will tell you what's best for you on your farm, has changed a lot, has become more interactive, more listening, and with new types of activities, vouchers, being active in on-farm demonstrations, and all this, we listed that up in this paper, in particular for advisory interventions to ensure member states what is allowed, and these crazy ideas of voucher, yes, you can do it. What I also think is important is the improved achievements that we have. So what works so far, we've been able to build that into the regulation, in new regulation for the next period, which is from 2028 in principle, if all gets agreed in time, right? So it starts 1 January 2028 until 32. And that means that in essence, and I hope that's good news for you, not much has changed for AKIS. A lot of the provisions that were now spread a little bit around, we concentrated them, but in essence, they might read a little bit with another word, but the meaning is still the same. And I will explain all the provisions later on so that you can see that you shouldn't misinterpret it. It's still exactly the same philosophy, and it's exactly the same accents that are there. We have a few tiny action points, so there is a small evolution in the provisions, and that's also because we learned from, well, the exchanges we had and the experiences, and also from evaluations. There was a big evaluation that was presented in the award event in Estoril in 24. And that was that we need to work more about communication during the project and dissemination, and even a follow-up, a scaling up. So this phase, we have more attention now in this proposal. Also the simplification, and this is all across the board, even for all funds and all policies, an issue. So the emphasis for simplified costs is in the new provision. So I think what we also did in this period, and will definitely help the impact also after 2027, is improved AKIS organization. So in the current provisions, we have indicated that if you want a strategy to work, you have to have somebody who coordinates or somebody who drives it. Those are the AKIS coordination bodies, and that can be one person in the ministry working with his team and with a number of people in a network or whatever, or it can be a larger body where a number of people are really appointed to, and which may have up to 70. So it's very variable, and this is also what we wanted. Be flexible, do in your country what fits best for you. But they are all now installed and have done their first activities, so we can build on that also. And first steps are always more difficult, and the next steps in the next period will be easier. And again, you will learn from each other what these bodies are doing and how they can propose interesting activities to fuel towards a better functioning AKIS. Also in the departments of the Ministries of Agriculture, we've seen that people working around knowledge and innovation systems have come closer to each other, even got into the same unit, having the innovation cap network part together with the policy makers who draft the legislation in one team, and with the people who are responsible or interconnecting with research. That's really, really very useful if they can be close to each other. And in any case, we see that wherever they are, these units who are involved in the knowledge and innovation system, that they have started to interconnect much better than before. So we're very happy with that. As I said, but I wanted also to have it in my presentation for you, not to doubt at all, our AKIS coordination and strategies, they vary a lot, and they have to vary because all countries are different. They might be regional or more federal or national. The connections, the organizations are different, the ministries are different. You might have research in your Ministry of Agriculture or outside in a separate ministry together with education. You have all kinds of situations and cases. So the coordination models vary, and that's a good thing. And then what we've also seen coming up very much was already starting with EIP operational groups, but with AKIS also, that member states, thanks to these EU networks, also in our... okay, something's coming in between my presentation. Should I go back or... how does it work? So you're going to... okay, thank you. Now my last point, which I appreciate very much, is that you all get to know each other better now, countries, and there's also a lot of bilateral, maybe phone calls or meetings or cross visits, and that's really good because then you can go into depth on your measures, on your experience, and that's going to help the next period for sure very much, in particular because we didn't change much, and you can really continue and learn from what you have been doing and exchange even more. So all this big web, as well locally, regionally, nationally, and EU, this big web of knowledge and innovation system is being built gradually, and that will have certainly a huge impact on the next period. But of course, there's also legislation, and it's really important for you. So we tried to improve the legislation with a better organization of articles, simpler wording. That was the general line to take for the whole regulation, but it's always good. And nothing out of the blue, just a small evolution, not a revolution, based on lessons learned and wrapping existing concept in this simplified jacket. So for instance, this dissemination and scaling up of operational groups, will try to improve that a little bit. It was already possible, but it was in another article and people didn't connect sufficiently the articles. So, okay, we put it together in the operational group article. We had shattered over the regulation articles on advice, first of all on the conditions and the overall system, second on the support, and then also in the AKIS strategy we have made advisors very prominent that they have to be part of a good AKIS strategy. So we put that all together in one article now. There's also already now, sorry, this is not in the new provisions, there's improved guidance on the understanding of the interactive innovation model. You will know, and this is again continued in the new CAP provisions, we have the 3 bullets explaining the interactive innovation model, but I wanted to draw your attention that there's more than that. In the guidance on data, we already have now a full page, like the multi-actor approach in the Horizon projects. We have a full page with more explanation about the interactive innovation model, which will still be valid in the future. One element, and you will see that from the slides when I go through the provisions, there will be more responsibility upon the member states to ring-fence AKIS funding. Because in the future we have a CAP regulation, but what is in the CAP regulation is partially ring-fenced CAP money and partially funded by another big fund. And it will be up to you, member states, to take from that fund what is needed for the AKIS strategies. So there's more responsibility at the level of the member states. Right. So before I start with further provisions, I need to remind you that it is a proposal of the Commission. It has been discussed, explained, let's say, in a first working party with the responsibles of member states authorities. A lot of questions were raised. People are always a bit curious, is it still the same? The wording has changed a little bit. So all these questions came up. So we had one, and all the subjects of the CAP now go on a weekly basis through the working parties. But the idea is already by end of this year to have a final position. So things might go very quickly. And we also see in the Special Committee on Agriculture that member states start to take their stance about how the whole structuring of the proposals and the budget is done. So in a few months, we might know a little bit more. And now is also for member states the time to act. The ball is in their camp now. So this is just what I'm talking about, is just the proposal, and certainly not to be taken as the final conclusion. So on these proposals, we have the next slide. First, I'll try to make you the bigger picture with the budget. 2 trillion euro for this 7 years period. And the biggest chunk in that budget is, and this is now important for us, because the CAP is not linked in full with CAP funding, which is only in the regulation of the CAP. So we have this single fund, the single national and regional partnership plan fund, and there's 44% of the big budget in there, which is huge, 865 billion. And it includes, in fact, Interreg, regional funds as we knew them from EFRD, cohesion funds, fisheries funds. So it's one big pot of a variety of funds. And the objectives of this fund, they are explained here. I put literally what's in the proposal on the slide. And they vary a lot. So it's about the Union's sustainable prosperity, but also defense capacities, social cohesion, the quality of life. And just to be sure, that's our part. That's where the CAP objectives are. But also fundamental rights, democracy, all the actions related to these objectives come out of this single fund. Meaning that there's not a CAP plan anymore, but it's a big NRP plan, which covers all these different activities. And this plan, for instance, has for Interreg 10 billion ring-fenced, for fisheries 2 billion ring-fenced. For agriculture, we have a special situation. We have partially ring-fencing, what is called CAP income support, and partially not. What is also in that plan is Frontex, Europol, other agencies, also other ring-fenced stuff. So it's a real huge plan, and the making of such a plan at national level will be a real challenge, probably. But it's one plan, so meaning one set of rules tailored to member states' needs, and the Commission will provide guidance at the start with CAP national recommendations, it's like we had now for preparation of the CAP plans. And of course, the SWOT analysis will be at the basis, you know this. And then to finalize with the budget, there's another big fund which is important for us, because it's a fund for Horizon Europe, whatever it will be called, FP10, let's say, for the time being. So it's called the European Competitiveness Fund. And we have there from the 409 billion euro, it's 21% of the total budget, which is quite nice for research mainly. We have 19.7 million for our collaborative research projects like this one, under the title Health, Biotech, Agriculture and Bioeconomy. So we expect that probably there's going to be a little bit more than what we have now. But within this fund, within this budget for health, biotech, agriculture and bioeconomy, still the divisions have to be made. So it's early days even to talk about it, because again, these budgets are proposals. Now, coming to the CAP and what is ring-fenced and what is not ring-fenced. So there's one proposal, Commission proposal, the future regulation in principle. And in our article where the ring-fenced CAP support is summed up, we can see that basically the income support, the direct payments are there, but also agri-environment and climate actions, investments are there, setting up of young farmers, even farm relief services, which was introduced back into the regulation. We had it for many periods and then last period was gone. And also the sectorial, this is all ring-fenced CAP budget. For that ring-fenced budget, the minimum national contribution will be 30% of eligible costs, so the estimated cost of an intervention. Whereas, in fact, now for rural development, not for direct support, but for rural development, we had 43. So for the parts of coming which were in the past rural development interventions, they in fact now have a lower national contribution rate. This is the less nice part, what is not under the CAP ring-fence budget. It is in the CAP proposal, in the text, but it doesn't fall under that almost 300 million budget, are a few smaller measures, because they are relatively peanuts if you compare it with all the rest. Not that I don't think they are important, surely not, because our AKIS is here. Our interventions for AKIS are here. Also LEADER is here. But if you compare it with the rest of the CAP budgets, these are not big budgets, and unfortunately they are not in the ring-fenced part. Now, member states are working to change that, and we will see what happens. But this is the situation as it's now in the provisions, which I can show you. And the general rule for these interventions is that they have a much higher national contribution rate of 60% of estimated costs. So, and this depends, of course, on the regions. Also in the past was like for developed regions, 60%, for transition regions, 40%, for 50% for the less developed. But most of Europe is, of course, developed, so it would be 60%, and that's the double of if we would have been in the ring-fenced part. So we'll see what member states make of this, and if this is the final version. Now, the CAP objectives, they are in the NRP under the title Quality of Life, and I made a list for you. There's nothing new. In the past, we had like 6 CAP objectives and all separate, and now it's a bit broader, so the focus is on income for farmers, competitiveness, also their position in the value chain, the food security is explicitly there, overall attractiveness of the living standards and attractiveness. Then there's a part referring to aquaculture and fisheries, and then most of what we have in the current regulation is in this last point, enhancing sustainable agriculture to promote resilient climate action, ecosystem services, water management, nature-based solutions, sustainable development, environmental protection, etc. So maybe other words, but more or less what we had in the former CAP objectives. For so far, I'm very open to listen to you, but so far we haven't seen key differences with the current CAP objectives that might hinder you in designing this or that intervention. But okay, let's see if we understand it as you understand it. Now coming to these two key articles. I'm not sure, but I missed one slide where I explained these articles. Let me just, no, probably, no, I think one slide has gone missing, doesn't matter. So we have two key articles. I will add the slide later on for you to read. Article 19 and 20. 19 is about the support on the one hand for operational group, on the other hand for all kind of knowledge actions. So meaning that it replaces the old articles 77 and 127 valid for operational groups, plus the article 78 where you have training, advice, demonstration, knowledge exchange actions, etc. So they are all in this article, so the whole support elements are here, and the context elements are in Article 20. And in the first provision, it says support to prepare and implement the projects of the EIP, as well as, and this is the new element, the small evolution element coming also from the evaluation, as I said, and actions to ensure a broader uptake of project results. So more emphasis that also after and during the project, we have to get out and share and interact and disseminate and make sure that the uptake is good or even better than in the past. Second article is, in fact, what we had under the no article, 78 in the current regulation. That's support for actions to provide innovation, training, advice, skills development, and other forms of knowledge sharing, could be demonstration or whatever. The aims of the EIP AGRI, I haven't detailed them in the slide because they are more or less the same as in the past, but there's an additional sentence because our EIP is, as I said, cornerstone also for the AKIS. It's a place where people can meet, and also in the preparation and in the further communication and dissemination, the AKIS is key. So the results of operational group should not stay just for the operational group, it should be disseminated and multiplied through AKIS. Then we have our interactive innovation model. I'm looking now to the time, and I think I need to hurry up a little bit. Not much has changed, but we understand that focusing on the needs of the farmers, there are questions raised about the other food chain actors, and they are explicitly there as potential partners of operational groups, so no worries about that. What is kind of a new sentence is the last one here. Member states shall ensure that key results are disseminated through practice-oriented channels. In the past, we just referred to the EIP network or the CAP network, and not so much to the local channels, and they are really key: farmers' journals, local websites, the advisory organizations' websites. So these results should be there, and that's really important, so we put it explicitly there now. Of course, we continue to spread that through the CAP networks with focus on the practice aspect. So it's not that we want to have these theoretical things, but really what is the farmer able, or forester or rural actor able to use. I don't know, why is this? Yeah, okay, right. So we all want to ensure, and I use this old slide because the using of it is exactly what now we emphasize a little bit more in the provision. And a few quick clarifications on Article 19. So you have understood now it's for the 3 steps, let's call it 3 steps. The preparation is still there, implementation of the project, but also the life after is very important. What is not explicitly there because it's not regulated, meaning you can give still up to 100% support. You must comply with the CAP objectives as in the past, and only state aid rules, and we have that in the current period. For instance, training is limited beyond what is in the CAP regulations by state aid rules. So this is to be followed up because we don't have any state aid provisions yet. That comes later. But in principle, you can have still this 100% support, which is quite important for like the more sustainability-oriented projects. They really need this. Cross-border operational groups is not literally mentioned because it's understood that you can do it. There are no specific rules, no specific procedures. That's all case by case that you will need to design that. So yes, of course they are allowed, but they are not literally in the provisions. The thing about should it really be high-level innovation new, or can we use existing practices in a new context? And I'm thinking, for instance, on short supply chains. The principle of short supply chain is very well known, but of course, in the context of various products and regions and countries and national legislations that are different, all these are different. Yes, you can indeed set up project around traditional practices in a new geographical or environmental context. What we don't have yet is state aid exemption, because in this period we managed to have up until 500,000 exemption of notification for everything which is not Annex 1. So the pure agriculture production is always exempted, but for things like biomass or more the rural social innovation aspects, care farming, all those kind of innovation projects, you had to ask for a notification, and we were cleared from that in this period. And for the time being, we don't have it yet, but again, as I said, this comes later, but to be followed up. We don't have advance payments yet, so I'm not sure what is the intention there. These big fund rules, they were made with many DGs together, so the whole coordination exercise on a short period was quite heavy. And I'm not sure if this was intentionally, so let's see, but it's a thing that we notice. You already understood from the ring fencing, I explained that. Support for investments is detailed, that it could go up to 75%, even 85% for young farmers. So if the investment is made in the framework of an operational group, if it's done by a farmer, we have that situation. If it's done by another actor, which in my view, and please tell me or correct me if you see it different, but for as far as it came to my ears, we don't have so many other actors who do investments, but it's possible. And there's no regulation. So, I mean, there are no provisions yet. So that's a bit unclear for the time being. For farmers, it is clear. And then something really new is that in the whole NRP fund, there's an obligation for simplified cost options. And in our case, below 100,000 euro, there's this obligation to work with simplified cost options. The sentence there is not fully clear, will probably be improved, but the principle is there. Here's Article 20, so about the context. So the title is Agricultural Knowledge and Innovation Systems, and also Farm Advisory Services. So there's a first general article explaining that it's about knowledge and knowledge flows, that you have in your NRP plan, as we have now a section 8 for the AKIS strategy, you will also have a dedicated part to explain your AKIS strategies. It's even twice in the regulation, in Article 20 and in this article. And as part of the AKIS, it's clear that the organization of advice is key, and that advice needs to be provided. This is what we have now also when you fill in the CAP plan, that you need to have your AKIS coordination body to organize advice as part of the AKIS and not as something separate. Farm advisory services, in the past there were a lot of detailed provisions. Now the wording about that tailored advice, meaning we're not talking about group advice or group sessions, but really working with the farmer and with his farm and providing tailored advice for them, is necessary, and you have to supply that for the requirements set up in the NRP plans, so the farm stewardship, so the old GAIC and SMRs, setting up transfers, there's mental health issues, there's social support, also the use of innovation. So this is really much simplified and in a way also more open. And then there's this attention overall for young farmers, targeted advice for young farmers, in particular regards business management, access to finance, public support access, and also knowledge and innovation. So there's dedicated importance attached to that. And then, which is still the same as what we have now, that member states shall ensure that farmers and foresters have access to advisors, by, for instance, having a database that they can easily find the right advisor for what they are looking, having that transparency, and making sure also that it's impartial, that advisors don't have conflict of interest, that they are suitably qualified, the training, remember, so nothing really changed here. Then the AKIS strategy, so this is what we have now in section 8, and there I think we will make huge improvements, but because if I look back now to the section 8 of the CAP plan and what I expect you will make now in the future, I'm sure this is going to be much better, because at the time that these CAP plans were written, many people just didn't know about the word AKIS, and I think we moved along very much. And it will not be that difficult to set up this AKIS strategy. We have all these ABCD points of what should be in. In the past, we had 4 questions. Now it's these points, so ensuring effective knowledge flows. In our modernization article currently, we only had explicitly CAP networks, researchers and advisors. Why? Because we wanted to bring the emphasis on those, that at least those had to be in. But then we got questions, and why not? Why did you not put the farmers in there, and why not? So now we really try to be open and make sure that we're not just focusing on those 3 categories, but of course on anybody who can help knowledge flows. There's again advice, which is important and which you have to describe and how you organize it. The innovation support services are here as part of your AKIS strategy, as in the past. A plan to improve dissemination of research and innovation and sustainable solutions, which is a bit a general thing. Interventions that are linked to AKIS, for sure. And also how you're going to organize your farm advice. So if you look to this, the AKIS and the AKIS strategy will cover on the one hand, and I just give a few examples of interventions, the classical ones that are almost in every CAP plan, the operational groups, some education and training interventions, some demonstration interventions. We had a huge number of member states taking this up now because of the AKIS in their current plans already, so I expect that to be continued. Some events where knowledge sharing is being done, and advice, those are key things that are in almost all CAP plans there. I expect them to be there in the future. But what can be improved, and this is something which I take the occasion to share with you, is the interlinkage among them. So making sure that, for instance, the outcomes of operational groups are well directed to advisors, to the education, to demonstration interventions, to knowledge exchange events, your winter meetings, or your other events that you organize, your fairs, etc. So to better interlink these different and the actors that are the people from the operational group, that they go on a farm demonstration and are there and can be reached by the farmers who join that. So these lines among the interventions, to have them and to describe them very well in the strategy, I think that's something that can be improved now, and I hope that we can do that in this period, in the next period, sorry. Last but not least, the link to research. Synergies between EIP Agri and FP10. Remember, we started with that from 2014, really, to make this bridge with research, and it's still there in the recital. We're still looking for those synergies, and you know how it works. So in our multi-actor approach projects, we have a definition of interactive innovation, and we have explicitly this wording, which I have here on the bottom of the slide. It's strongly recommended to involve interactive innovation groups, such as operational groups funded under the EIP, meaning that Horizon multi-actor approach projects reach out to operational group, if any, on their subject. Maybe there are none, but it gives extra evaluation points if you can show that. And the other way around also, in the CAP networking on EIP, we invite a lot of Horizon projects to share their information and to pass that on. And of course, through the database and the database projects, knowledge reservoirs, we do our best to make these synergies. And that will surely continue and even grow I expect, because we are really building that AKIS community at EU level also. I hope, not too long. Thank you for your attention. And if there are more questions, let's see. The moderator will decide whether maybe you have to start with the panel or take it immediately. Thank you.